All right. Happy Saturday, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of Caribbean Diaspora Vibes. Sometimes, whether it's Zoom or Facebook, they always want to give you some kind of problems or some kind of restriction, and, we have to adhere. So we apologize for being a few minutes late tonight getting on. But so, welcome back, everyone. I see all the beautiful faces out there. Welcome, Lewis, with Caribbean Rhythms Radio Network. What's up, my man?
Not much. All is well. A beautiful Saturday afternoon as we give thanks and praise. And it's good to be here to discuss a very important topic. We want to welcome all our Facebook, Zoom viewers and all the listeners from Caribbean Rhythms Radio Network this evening.
Yes, thank you so much. Dr. Bevan Debrio.
Oh, hello, good evening, everyone, and welcome. Right, it's summertime here, or it's getting hot, and a lot of activities, and we have 2 and 3 things going on at the same time. But it's definitely an honor and a privilege for us to come on and still inform and educate our people. So we just love what we do, and today we have a breath of fresh air for you guys as you tune in.
Yeah, so we are definitely juggling. Right now, I'm actually at Westgate Resorts, preparing for an event for a little bit after, like around 7:30. So, but we juggle, we make it. Actually, it looks like a virtual background, like one of my backgrounds. But yeah, we're actually out, and I see Dr. Bevan is also dressed to the max. So
yes.
yeah, so we have the pleasure, let me tell you, we have the pleasure of having several lupus advocates here this evening to inform you. But before we get started, let me just introduce myself. My name is Donna Morgan. I am the president of Caribbean American Diaspora Alliance, president of Women of Culture Incorporated, and real estate broker of Florida Summer Homes Realty. And we want to thank you again for joining us. So we are here to hear about the purpose behind pain. So these individuals that are here, it's their purpose behind the pain that they had to endure that we get to learn from. And so we first give God thanks and praise that we're able to hear. Let's introduce you to our first guest tonight, Emmitt Henderson, who is a lupus advocate, founder of Male Lupus Warriors nonprofit corporation out of California. And I must say that a lot of times we always just see women. So that's the first thing, is that Emmitt is standing strong to say, yes, men can have lupus too. So with that, I'll turn it over to Emmitt so we can hear a little bit about who he is, his journey, and how he is now using that pain for a purpose.
Absolutely. I really appreciate you, Donna. Thank you for everybody for tuning in. My regards to the Caribbean islands, most beautiful place in the world. Can't wait to get back there. But for today, I will settle with sunny Las Vegas, Nevada, as I am doing a lupus event here as well. So as she had mentioned, my name is Emmitt Henderson III. I am CEO and founder of the nonprofit organization, Male Lupus Warriors Corporation. Being a man with lupus was pretty kind of, put it this way, it was a scary thing. It was one of those things where you get diagnosed with a disease that they have no idea of how to treat. Back in 1995, when I got diagnosed, my symptoms go back to 1980 with one of the symptoms of lupus, of what is called discoid lupus of the skin. I ended up having a rash all over my skin and the top part of my chest and shoulders that the doctors back in 1980 could not understand what it was. The only way that they treated me was just a skin lotion or some type of cream, and they tell me to stay out of the sun. But then they couldn't understand the relation between the fevers and then the rash. And that actually happened for about 1.5 years. After that, it kind of faded on its own. But let's fast forward now 15 years later, one of the most common forms of lupus is systemic lupus. Systemic lupus is the way that your immune system in your body basically fights against itself. It doesn't see the difference between viruses and any type of harm to the body versus your natural organs. So in my case, it gave me really bad, one of the symptoms of joint pains. The joint pains were so bad that, Don, I'm gonna tell you, 95, as a young man at the age of 25 years old, I thought I was invincible to the world. And when you get little pains in here, men especially, we don't get checked out because something hurts. We put ice on it, we lay it down, we forget about it, we continue to move on. However, when this had gone on for over a year and 2 or 3 times going into the emergency room, consistently getting dismissed because they didn't find anything in my blood, I stopped going. And I had to endure this, pain for the longest until finally that pain shifted now to my lower back. Unknown to me that lower back pain ended up being my kidneys. When I got diagnosed in 1995, I got brought in because of the joint pains and because of the lower back pain, severe fevers. I was told I had, at the time, a rare disease. So when I asked the doctor, why was it rare? Her answer to me was because of my age, my gender, and my ethnicity. I am a Filipino African-American male at the age of 25. They're telling me that it's rare because it's a woman's disease. So that's what I was told in 1995. So acceptance was something really hard for me at the time because I knew nothing about it, but you're going to tell me this is a description of it. And here I am trying to live my life as a young man. It was kind of tough to go through all that. I had a lot of pain. And as we say, what did I turn to purpose? Before I turned my pain into a purpose, I had to turn that pain into power first. That pain ended up in forms of over 30 medications a day at one time. I ended up having almost every organ affected in my body, from liver disease to restricted lung disease. I had to have my gallbladder removed. I had major infections in my esophagus of ulcers. I went through chemotherapy. I went through radiation therapy. I had a vascular necrosis was built up, which that is the restriction of blood to the joints. Because of it, I ended up having a shoulder replacement. I ended up having a knee replacement. Both my hips and the opposite joints are affected as well. However, I'm very mindful, so I try not to play football in the streets like I used to as a kid anymore, and make sure that these joints last as long as possible. But then when you have all the other things that are debilitating you on a daily, from the fevers, we get shingles, we get gouts, we get migraines, we get all kinds of infections that, because we're on high steroids and with lupus, our body doesn't heal fast like a healthy system. A cold for me is almost a flu overnight. A cut on me takes forever to heal, as opposed to having a regular system where a couple of days it will be gone. Not only did it take me through all these physical hardships, but mentally as well. As a young man at the age of 25, having 2 kids already, manager of the organization that I was working at, it was pretty tough to try to maintain that positivity and that work ethic when you have a disease that's debilitating you. And of course, as a man, we try not to show that. We don't show the workforce that we're hurting, that we're in pain. We don't show the workforce that we have fatigue and we're tired. We don't do that. When we do that, now we're perceived as either being weak or we can't handle it. And that's one of the biggest stigmas right now that men have to go through, that perception right there. So when lupus decided to attack my heart, I ended up having to go into a coma over 3.5 weeks. I was in the hospital for 3 months of recovery. When I got out of recovery from heart failure, I had to learn how to walk and talk and use my limbs all over again. At that time, my rheumatologist doctor found a clinical trial for me and told me basically that this is what I needed to have done, or my heart will not take another flare over again. I ended up having a bone marrow stem cell transplant at the time. And that was just to slow down the aggression of my lupus at the time. Now, that was a success because at that time, the lupus flares had slowed down. The medications they started to bring down because of the lack of involvement lupus was showing to my body. However, lupus wasn't done. It did the damage. I ended up having a kidney transplant after that. which I was still blessed by my little brother by giving me a kidney to this day. A lot of my procedures of surgeries were done after that. And then I ended up having a stroke, excuse me. And just when I thought that lupus was done, no, it decided to pick my brain. So as of now, I have a brain disease that is not diagnosed, that the cause of the brain disease that the doctors feel is a combination of my years with lupus, as well as the years of my immunosuppressant medications I've been on. I've been on steroids for over 25 years, all kinds of medications that I still take to this day that I have to because of my health in my system. What I ended up doing with that brain disease is that it took me out of work. And because of it taking me out of work, I needed to find another purpose to do for this pain that it put me through. That power turned into turning into an entrepreneur, having my own organization. I created Male Lupus Warriors, which I've already known the fact that it's rare in men that have lupus, but what's even more rare is men advocating for lupus. So I decided to call myself Male Lupus Warriors to specifically let people know that this advocating is going to come from a man with experience from lupus itself. I decided to create events. I decided to create all kind of awareness to where, yes, it is me that have lupus. And I honestly didn't know that I had a story till I told my story. Once I told my story, that also found purpose in others, that my story was like the key that unlocked them out of their prison to where now they can open up and be as vocal as well to say, it is okay that men get lupus. It is okay that we can persevere and still maintain that status that we thought we would lose because we become vulnerable and because we're thought of as being weak. So I'm breaking all stigmas about that right now, letting everybody know that no, we can go through lupus as long as we have that mindset, that self-care and that motivation to keep on going, educate ourselves, physically eat right, exercise, change your lifestyle to where everything is in the better for the better good. Guys, we can get through almost everything. I'm a Male Lupus Warrior. I talk about it today. My organization, I'm trying to spread across worldwide just to let everybody know that lupus is real. The struggle is real, but what is also real is our faith and our strength. So let's make that happen to where we can get through this and keep on going from there. Donna, I can tell you more about what I got coming up for my organization. Whatever you need to know, you let me know. But that's kind of the gist of my story.
Wow.
I'm sure we have some questions. Lois?
Yes, definitely. My brother, how are you?
I am doing good, sir. So glad to meet you and be on here with you.
Yeah, man. Boy, you are a walking miracle, my brother.
I appreciate you.
You are a walking miracle, and I feel you. I feel your compassion, and I see where you're coming from. It's like your story, that this thing hit every organ in your body.
Yes, it has.
How did you get the nerves to survive this, my brother? What carries you through this entire ordeal?
I got to say, first and foremost, God put me in a position where I was mentally strong enough to understand what everything was coming at me. I had 2 young kids at the time, and I had a very strong family support. And with that alone right there, I knew that I had their help. I just needed to do my part. Once I knew about lupus, I started to understand what it did to people that was experienced for so long. When somebody had lung failure, which I didn't have at the time, I learned about it. So when I had lung failure, I kind of knew that, okay, they had it, they survived. I have it now, I'm gonna survive. And I'm just gonna do whatever it takes to get past. I was confident.
My brother, is this thing run in your family before? Is any of your family member had this before?
No, it's just that because of my ethnicity of being part Asian and Filipino, it possibly could have been back in the islands where if it was there, nobody knew.
Right.
I mean, but nothing diagnosed until me.
Man, your story is awesome. You are looking healthy and good. I think God is with you. I think you have a lot to tell, more than just what you just told, but I know you have to just sum it up.
There is.
Man, it's good to see you, and you look healthy.
You.
And we hope and pray that your 2 boys, you have 2 boys, just 2 boys?
I have a son and a daughter,
The daughter,
and
kids.
my daughter unfortunately kind of had caught two autoimmune diseases because of this, unfortunately. But she's strong and she's getting through this as well.
Amen to that. We pray for you, man.
That's right. Thank
Awesome.
you. Thank you.
You know, it's interesting that we just looked at lupus, I think, as we just see the rash. We see the rash on the face, but did not really kidneys, heart,
Wow.
lungs, brain. It affects
Mm.
the main organs.
Yeah.
So, you know, what is so I'm not sure if you know this, Emmitt, like, so you may not know, like, what, so is it hereditary? Is this thing just something, you know, where does it come from and why?
Well, first of all, there's no main source where the doctors, at least as of now, how lupus has started. There are a lot of factors that could possibly trigger it, which some of it could be environmental factors. Some of it could be medication induced, drug induced. So there's all kind of ways of doing it. I mean, we as African Americans, we live hectic lives as it is. Could it have been that I was a young man having two young kids at an early age, thrown in a management position at an early age? Who knows? But it's one of those things. Until they find out and until they find a cure, we can get a better grip on lupus. But it still has to start with our mindset. No matter what it is, whether it's a cure or not, we have to accept what cards we were dealt and, you know, figure out how to get through. That's it.
Yes, yes.
So what's your normal, as we're waiting for Rosadela, our second, as she's getting to her destination? You mentioned the type of, is it steroids that, okay, once you were finally, because it took a while, right? Because for you to get this diagnosis. And so you, the suffering that you had, the frustration, and then you get the diagnosis. And so what was that treatment like?
The treatment was pretty evasive. Statistics say that men get more severe symptoms, more organ involvement with lupus than women do. And I guess I can say that I kind of contested that. So once they found out that I had, you know, that it was a diagnosis with lupus, when I got diagnosed, not only was lupus, but I was also on stage 3 kidney failure, which that is a separate sign of lupus, which is called lupus nephritis. So they had to treat me not only to stop the aggression of my lupus being strong, but already because of the damage of my organs and my kidney, already because of the bone damage that it did, where the bone density test showed that I was very fragile, hence the replacement of my shoulder, replacement of my knee, the hips and the opposite joints and my ankles. So I was taking medication for everything. Like I said, Donna, at one point I was over 30 pills a day. It was hard. I looked sick. I gained over about 60 pounds of weight, of water weight, just trying to let my body get used to all these drugs that was pumping in me. But the thing is, though, is that it kind of put my lupus a little bit at control. It wasn't that I was getting better. I was just controlled. That's it. And so year after year with organs failing and everything, it was a fluctuation of up medication, a little bit better. Now let's bring it down. A new organ, new medication, new illness, new medication. Frustrating, but at the same time, I had to remember I was still alive. I had 2 kids that looked up to me. I had a job that depended on me. I had family that knew I was sick, but also knew that I was strong. I had something to prove to them that I'm not leaving this earth anytime soon. So it was a test. And that's how I turned my pain into power that has given me now a purpose.
My brother Anderson, I know you have done some research based on you being in the business now. It takes you through this entire circle for you to become a speaker on this subject. What percentage of people who get this disease survive?
Well, it's a high percentage of over like 70%, because as long as it's detected early, it can be treated. I mean, I was detected with kidney failure But I had my transplants, I've had my surgeries, and 27 years later, I'm still here. Unfortunately, everyone doesn't have the same medical treatment that everyone can have. Unfortunately, people don't go get checked out when we have something happen. Therefore, when it's caught, it's a little bit late, and you have these debilitating functions going wrong with your organs. We can live a good life as long as we are mindful of getting checked out. A lot of us will have insurance and barely use it at all. It does not hurt to get a physical or a checkup once every quarter of the year, just to make sure. So we can live with it. But unfortunately, there is a lot of statistics that bounces up and down where it can take people really fast, depending on how severe the functions of the organs are.
Mm-hmm. And is this popular now that we're just hearing about it? Because most people don't know about this lupus disease. When I see Donna post it, I'm like, okay, I learned from it. I'm going to learn today.
Yeah.
About this disease. Is this common in the African community? Is this a common disease?
Absolutely. When I was diagnosed in 1995, at the time they told me that it was rare in men, also rare in African American men, more common in older white women. Even 2 years after I got diagnosed, where I didn't talk about lupus much because I still didn't understand it myself, the time that I decided to go to a support group I found in a local area, I walked into the room with nothing but older white women. I had to leave because I thought that I couldn't learn from that, because not one person of color, not one person a man. So I had to leave. I had to learn about lupus based on what happened to me and what my doctors were telling me what's wrong. The first pamphlet that I was given for me to learn about lupus had a women's anatomy in there and nothing on a man. I couldn't learn from that either. So, and this, as we go further now, 10% was the number at the time. I believe now it is up to about 22% of men now are diagnosed, which that could be a combination of more medical treatment getting done, more men speaking up as well. Who knows where that's at?
Man, wow. You have a journey, brother. Your journey just start. That's all I can tell you.
Yes.
You have to go through it in order to be it and to speak about it. And so, we wish you all the best, man. Get out there and let the world know about it. I think you have a story, a big story to tell. I think you're well prepared for it.
Thank you.
You sound passionate about what you have gone through, and you can tell a real story. This is not anything fake.
Absolutely. I wear my merchandise to remind everybody that, I am lupus strong. I raise lupus awareness. Ask me what lupus is. I'm going to educate somebody.
Yes. All right.
Good. Awesome.
What are some of the symptoms? Emmitt, what are some of the symptoms that you experienced that caused you to get to a doctor with this?
Most of them were joint pains in the very beginning, but because they were joint pains on the inside that I physically couldn't see, I brushed them off like a lot of people will do. But then when the joint pains kind of coincide with fevers, very much fatigue where one day you spring up out of bed, the next you felt like you just got hit by a truck and you're just so weak, you just can't get out. The fatigue is real, and also brain fog. It's like I could just remember something 5 minutes ago and forget all of a sudden. Now it's like, that's not me before. Why is all this happening? Lupus has so many different underlying symptoms that it's hard to get diagnosed. The average person takes about 6 to 7 years to get diagnosed with lupus. That's because it has so many symptoms that fit so many different categories, but they have to be very prevalent themselves and making sure that they, to open up and tell the doctor. So track the symptoms is the best that I could recommend.
Was there a particular thing that had you asked the doctor to check and see if it's lupus, or did they find that out themselves?
No, because at the time I never knew what lupus was. I never wasn't familiar with autoimmune diseases at all. I thought I was a healthy person. So I kind of put it in their hands at 1995 to say, what's wrong with me, doc? And that was it. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. That helps a lot.
Thank you.
Yes.
Before we go to our next guest, what do you do now? Like, I know you were on a lot of meds before, Emmitt, but what's the normal now and progress now?
Well, the normal now is maybe half the meds that I was taking, but I still on them because of the transplants I've had. I, of course, need organ rejection medication, but a lot of it now is a lot of self-practice, a lot of self. I put the word self in a lot of things that I do because I depend on that. When it comes to working out, when it comes to taking care of myself, health, you know, we have to laugh, we have to smile, we have to live life. Just because we have this burden of a disease, we can't let it define us. So every day, even though I lost my career in automotive management, I found a new career in advocating that is just priceless for me. So this is now my job. I wake up every morning eager to open up to see what is going to be next. What is social media bringing? What interview, what podcast am I on that I could educate the world on? This is an everyday effort. I got big events that I'm preparing for that is going to, you know, keep the word lupus out there in everybody's ear when they see what I'm doing. So I'm just really excited the path that I'm on.
All right. So tell us a little bit of what you have coming up and again about your organization.
Absolutely. So my nonprofit organization is an organization that started that is experienced from what I've been through because of being up and down with work, not at work, back on disability. I had a hard time getting covered through, you know, our state disability. So my organization is to help people financially to kind of get through those storms until Social Security or disability can say, here you go, now we can help you. I've been months without income and it was a struggle. If I can get the money, raise the money to help people to avoid that, I definitely am. With all the speakings and everything that I'm doing, one of the biggest events that I have coming up is I got lucky to be chosen to be the individual to help an organization go to Africa and hike Mount Kilimanjaro. I would be a lupus patient to hike Mount Kilimanjaro in Africa. And once we succeed that, we come back home to October where we're going to have a lupus gala event in San Diego, in my hometown, where we are going to have a catered celebrity guests, speakers, live band, music. I mean, it's just going to be off the hook to where May is Lupus Awareness Month, but we're bringing this to where we can celebrate lupus any time of the year. Our disease doesn't have a day off, so why should we? If I want to celebrate an event in October, so it's going to happen. And that's what we're doing so far. I just left Atlanta from a lupus walk I attended over there. I just got back from Virginia with being on an R&B concert platform, talking about lupus with one of my main men that does this with me, Dion Langley, with #BeLupus, another male advocate. We're just trying to do this by storm and try to keep it in everybody's ear that men get lupus. It is okay with no matter what autoimmune disease you have. It's just that you do not focus on the setback, but you put that motivation and progress in your comeback.
Into the future. That is awesome. And is there a contact? How does someone listening by radio or Facebook reach out to you?
Absolutely. I'm on social media. You can find me at Male Lupus Warriors. You can email me, malelupuswarriors@gmail.com. And then you can go to my website, www.malelupuswarriors.org, malelupuswarriors.org. Look, you can read my bio all over again. I also host other lupus warriors and supporters, read about them, read about my journey, read about my purpose, you know, help support me. Help support me.
All right. All right.
Thank you so much.
Good stuff, my brother.
So
my
very
pleasure,
much.
my honor.
And
my pleasure.
Emmitt, thank you, you know, so much for answering the call. You know, with even such short notice, I kind of reached out into the universe and found you, and you said yes, and then reached out into the universe again and found Rosadela, who turned out that you guys worked together. So it was the craziest, wonderful, but crazy. But that's
yes.
So thank you so very much. And
you are very welcome. You are very welcome.
Have a blessed weekend. You know, if you're able to stay on, you know, hang tight, that's fine. But we know also you've got a lot planned for the weekend. So
yes.
Thank you, my brother. God bless.
God bless everybody. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
All
right, Louis, do you need to do a station ID?
Absolutely, absolutely. You're in tune to Caribbean Rhythms Radio Network. We are live this afternoon with Caribbean Diaspora Vibes right here. We're discussing the disease lupus, and so we hope that you are being informed and educated with our panel this evening.
All right, so everyone, as we go forward to our next guest, we want to introduce Rosadela Durruthy. And if I'm chopping up her name, she's going to get it right for me. So Rosadela is a lupus advocate, founder of She's Got Lupus, and her heritage is, she's a mix-up, right? So heritage is Cuba, Jamaica, Mexico, and how her parents ended up in California. So her organization is she'sgotlupus.com. So welcome, and thank you, Rosadela. You were just on, and then your video went off. So,
am I there? Can you see me?
Now we can.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Yes. So it's funny the way that my parents, because my father is from Cuba. He was born in Banes, Cuba. My mother was born in Tijuana, Mexico. And the way that they came to San Diego and were married and found each other is actually because of my uncle, where my lupus story starts. So he, my paternal uncle, he was diagnosed with lupus in his early 30s, and he was dating my aunt. And one day he said to my dad, who moved to San Diego, he says, "Hey, I have somebody for you." And they ended up going on a double date. And the funny thing is, they both ended up marrying the sisters. So 2 brothers married 2 sisters, and then they moved in next door to each other. So I grew up with my cousins, who were, you know, our DNA is so similar. Everyone thought we were siblings growing up, which it was always fun growing up. But when my uncle was in his 30s, he had already had his 3 boys, and I was probably younger than maybe 5. And he was diagnosed with lupus. He had a massive stroke. He became paralyzed. And like my brother Emmitt was mentioning earlier, back in the 80s, there weren't many diagnoses of lupus, especially not in the Hispanic or the Black community. So my uncle was not receiving, you know, full lupus treatment that we have available now. And he was left paralyzed after his stroke, and his hardships is what I grew up witnessing with others with lupus. So fast forward to my 20s, I had my oldest son, and I was experiencing joint pain and in my wrist, and I was going to the doctor, and they were dismissing it as carpal tunnel. They were dismissing it as, when it started spreading, they were telling me I have arthritis, even though I was 23 years old. They were telling me it's arthritis. And then when it started getting into my hips, where I was unable to even get out of bed on my own, they, my family, my uncle, he told me that it sounds like I have lupus, you know, the beginning stages that he was experiencing, and to ask my doctor to test me specifically for lupus, which is how I ended up getting my diagnosis with lupus at the age of 23. And it did take about 2 years. I believe my Emmitt mentioned that it's usually takes a few years for most people to be diagnosed with lupus, unfortunately. And the thing with lupus, and the reason that I advocate so hard for it right now, among other things, is because with lupus, 90% of those diagnosed with lupus are women, but 2 to 3 times more prevalent in women of color, like Hispanics, Native Americans, African American, the Polynesians. So those are all communities that when we look at it, we realize that these are communities that aren't getting the best healthcare opportunities. They're not getting the best knowledge about lupus or autoimmune diseases or even invisible diseases. And I don't know if it's a cultural thing, but I know in my household, you know, if you didn't look sick, it was just assumed that you're not sick. And lupus is an invisible disease. It attacks your immune system is attacking healthy organs in your body. So these are all things that are going on under the skin where it's not visible to others. So for myself, my own story, I was diagnosed with lupus, SLE, but then it was also, I was having lupus discoid where I was getting rashes I started with the butterfly rash, and then it would be on my arms, it would be on other parts of my body. And throughout my 15 years now that I've been diagnosed, I have also been diagnosed with hypothyroidism. They did a surgery where I still have a scar right here where they took half of my thyroid out. I have been diagnosed with hypertension, Raynaud's disease or Raynaud's syndrome, where my body can't regulate my temperature. I have neuropathy in my feet where I am in constant pain with my feet. Rheumatoid arthritis.
We just lost your, yeah.
There we go. I'm so sorry. Yeah, so rheumatoid arthritis. What else? The Raynaud's, the hypothyroidism. I had because of my heart rate is always constantly extremely high and my blood pressure is always high. The doctors did a procedure where I had a right heart cath procedure where they stick a needle into your chest right here, and it sends a thread around your heart. And because of that procedure, it's extremely invasive. I mean, I was awake when they did it, but because of the procedure itself, I ended up developing a blood clot that was going to my lungs, which if anybody knows anything about blood clots, those are extremely, extremely dangerous. And I was working full time. I have 3 boys right now. So my life is out. Like if you know, right now I am literally sitting in a parking lot at a hotel to meet my son for his prom. So I am always on the go. And when lupus hit me with the blood clot and these flare-ups where inflammation reaches high levels, my life, it's like it was put on pause for me, not by my choice. And I, in turn, with these inflammation flare-ups, I had shingles. I'm 20. I was in my mid-20s all the way up until my early 30s. I had shingles 4 times. Every time I've gone, and I don't know if it's something that doctors don't realize that they should be more sensitive about, but they would make a joke that this is something that old people get. And I'm sitting here in pain, and shingles is extremely painful. They would have to give me like the strongest hydrocodone or oxy medication to help calm me. And these are things that I'm sitting in doctors' offices and it's like they're making a joke of it. And it's extremely insensitive. The things that they would, you know, not even knowingly put you through. And then I've had shingles, I've had my rash. And then the worst that I can speak about is I was in one of these flare-ups where I was losing weight. They were giving me chemo therapy to help treat me, and it was making my hair fall out. Now you can see my hair is long and thick, but I don't know. My grandmother is Cuban and Jamaican. She was very huge on you let your hair grow long. That makes you, you know, be a lady and all of this. And then I'm going through these treatments and my hair was thinning out where I had bald patches. My hair completely started falling out. I had to cut it short. And it's just, and I lost so much. I'm 5'9" and my healthy body weight is like 150. I went down to 100 pounds. So I was so weak because of this that I was unable to walk on my own, and I'm in a wheelchair. And I was in a marriage that was just completely toxic. So all of these things began affecting not just my physical health, but then it started getting to my mental health. And the mental health, it's like it was a never ending cycle for me, it would, my mental health started affecting my physical health started affecting my mental health, and it was just an ongoing cycle. And I was at the point where I was completely depressed. I was dependent on my parents to take care of me because I was unable to get up out of bed because of my physical, limitations. And it was a good 2-3 years where I was stuck in this cycle because of these lupus flare-ups and because of the depression and everything. So after that, it was probably about 2019 or 2018, is a good friend of mine. She has a mental health awareness platform, and she asked me to speak about my lupus journey. And I was completely not ready for that because I was still kind of in that depression stage where I was not confident. I thought I was going to mess everything up. So I did it, just a conversation between me and her. I let her record it. And then I found that when I was speaking about my journey and everything that I've gone through, not only did it help me realize, like, wow, you have really gone through a lot, Rosadela, but I was also feeling a sense of power. And then I realized that the more I talked about it, that the more I was taking away the power from lupus and feeling more of a sense of empowerment for myself. And after that, I mean, I promise you, it was maybe a month later, I said, I'm going to start just social media talking about, lupus and telling others. And then the more feedback I received from others who saying, wow, you know what? Your stories and your telling about your journey is giving me a sense of empowerment. So from that 2019, I said, you know what? I told my dad, because his brother is the one who had lupus. I said, Dad, help me. I want to make, this is my vision. And I told him, I want to do She's Got Lupus as a website. I want to do a blog. I want to just talk about it and invite others to talk about it. And then towards the end of 2020, unfortunately, my uncle that had lupus, he got COVID and he passed away. And when he first got sick, I said, you know what, I got to take this to the next level. And I made She's Got Lupus. It is now a nonprofit organization. And I am my main thing, because not just did I have, bouts with depression, but my uncle as well with his diagnosis. And I noticed the correlation between mental health and your physical health. So She's Got Lupus is for me to help others to realize that, you can take your power back. You have a diagnosis, but don't let that diagnosis take your life, because we are able to come back from this. We can live semi-normal or even completely normal lives despite our diagnosis. It is not, it is us, it's in us. But my favorite thing to say is, I have lupus does not have me. So from my pain, I'm trying to take that and give others the power to basically be the person that when I was first diagnosed, I wish I had someone to encourage me along the way. So for She's Got Lupus, recently I actually just did a paint and pot event where I wanted to mix the mental health aspect with lupus awareness, because it is Lupus Awareness Month. And we did it was very local, small community event where we were painting little terracotta pots, and we painted with whatever your heart's desired, played some nice relaxing music. We were outside, and then I provided succulents so that they could take home, and just for self-care, a self-care reminder, to take a moment for yourself and to take care of yourself as well as the plants.
Wow, I know it must have been hard too with, again, caretaker of three children.
Yes.
And then you had to put life on hold, and we know how hard that is, especially with children.
Yes.
And so where are you Now, I know, again, the frustration. So this disease, like you all mentioned, it takes years. So you're going around, you're frustrated, you don't know, you're getting poked and prodded without really knowing, you know. Where are you now with your, is it more controllable?
Yes. So thank God I have been on steroids, like Emmitt mentioned. He's been on steroids for years. I have been consistently on steroids and medication for 9 years now, and I've been able to taper it down. So I am at a point where I can say I am not in remission, but I am more able to manage my symptoms. One thing that I have learned to do, and I actually try to teach others, is to recognize triggers for your flare-ups. So when you feel like, you know what, I'm completely overwhelmed, I'm starting to feel the stress, when to step back and take a break. And it's absolutely okay to do that. It is not selfish to do self-care. It is not selfish to say, you know, no to things, to events when you're starting to feel overwhelmed, because that is exactly what's going to lead you to a flare-up, which is going to lead you to being knocked off your feet. And so right now I am able to comfortably say I'm able to manage my lupus symptoms. I do take medication. I do a weekly injection of Benlysta medication. I take probably 6 pills a day. So it's overwhelming to someone who maybe doesn't have any disease, but for me, I know that that's how I can be able to function normally, how I can be the best mom for my parents, how for my children, how I can be the best partner to my partner, because I need to take my 6 medications, I do my injections. I know when to say, you know what, I need to go for a walk for my own mental clarity, or whatever it is I need to do, 30 minutes to myself, whatever it is. I know that what I need to do. And because I hear so many others, they say to me, you know, how did you do it? Or can you help me? So I got my life coach certification, so I can offer that as something to other lupus patients, but also other autoimmune, because lupus is very common to me, but also other autoimmune diseases. I speak to others that have, you know, NMO or multiple sclerosis, and it's almost always the same. Like, I get stressed, I get a flare up. So that's why I wanted to do that. And I started even Through the Pain is a podcast I do. It's available on Apple, all of the Google, Anchor, all of those. And I've speak with others who have autoimmune diseases, and others, or just speak to others through the podcast, that despite our disease, despite our illness, despite our diagnosis, we can still push through the pain and live a better life.
Wow, what a story. Lois, I see you speaking, but you're muted.
Yeah, I just wanted to lime in on you, Rosadela. Awesome story with
And we lost your video, Lois, just so.
Okay, hold on, let's see.
I think you touched something in.
Okay, can you? All right.
There you go.
All right.
Okay, awesome story, Rosadela, and I commend you for the things that you've been doing. But by the way, your hair look great.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask you, is there any, are you on any specific diet, or is there any herbal medicine you have checked through into? I know your mother is Jamaican, Cuban, and so we, between those two islands, we're full of herbs and things, you know?
Yes.
Any herbal or herbs or anything at all that mom recommended you to take during this process?
Well, my grandmother, unfortunately, she passed away maybe a few years into my diagnosis, so she didn't have many suggestions for me via the herbal route. But my father, he's on the Cuban side. He was able to, you know, guide me through eating better. And I mean, you know, I don't know if like the Caribbean food, we love, you know, we love our Caribbean food, but I would also incorporate, you know, eating a little bit healthier. I try to refrain from so much red meat. We do the herbal teas, you know, when for my blood pressure. And I notice when I do change my diet, I do have less flare-ups.
Awesome. Yes.
Good, good.
I think that's important. Another question for you. I know you mentioned twice that your doctors were very sensitive about your situation, making fun. Is this something that you intend to address one day with them? Because I think that is very important, maybe for your peace of mind as well, and maybe for
Absolutely.
and maybe for others that they understand that you're making a crank and I come here for you to fix my system. That is not cool.
Yes, and actually, so that was in the beginning of my journey with lupus, was the insensitive doctors. I was able to change my whole medical team. I don't even go to the same clinic or hospitals because, you know, I did hospitalized multiple times throughout my journey, and I started going to doctors who I feel listen to me, they hear me, they understand my symptoms. And I feel that the new team that I am with now is a huge part of the reason that I am able to bounce back and be so much more healthy than prior, when it was more of feeling like I was being made fun of or not being heard or listened to. So I do like to advocate to others that have been or are going through, you know, a similar journey, to know that if you don't feel that you are being heard in your doctor's appointments, or if you feel like your symptoms are being dismissed, it is absolutely okay to second guess a doctor. It is absolutely okay to say, you know what, I don't feel like you're listening to me. Can I get someone else to come and give me a second opinion? Because sometimes we have to speak up for ourselves. Doctors, as you know, esteemed as they are because of, you know, their education and the time they've spent, you know, supposed to be learning these things, a lot of times they are insensitive, or they might not even know, that might not be their specialty. So it's okay to speak up and say, you know what, this is not right. I need a second opinion.
Mm-hmm. And do you find that it was a cultural, do you think it was a cultural thing with you and the doctors versus who you are dealing with now?
It's very possible. The doctors I had prior versus the doctors I have now, they are all, the majority of them are Caucasian. But I just feel like where I go now, it is more of a learning hospital. So they were more open to try to do other options for my therapy or for my medications. Where I was going prior, they would pretty much just tell me, you know, they would give me an IV for fluid and give me some ibuprofen and send me home. But my new doctors where I went now, I mean, if I was willing to do it, they were willing to prescribe it. And thank God I have a decent insurance where I'm able to try different options. I've done chemotherapy, I've done radiation therapy, I've done the surgeries, I've done, you know, physical therapy. I had to relearn how to walk after I had the huge flare up. I had to do physical therapy. I've done almost whatever this new medical team has offered or suggested, because that's how desperate I am, or desperate I was, I should say, to live a normal life, to be able to provide for my children. I didn't work for almost 2 years. For 2 years, I was unable to work because of my disease. I was wrongfully let go from a previous employer because I was constantly sick. And these are things that I don't ever want to experience again. So I am, whatever a doctor suggests, I'm like, if they tell me don't eat bread, I'm not going to eat bread, you know, because I want to live, you know, a long, healthy life for my children.
Awesome. All the best. All the best.
Thank you so much.
I'm not sure if anyone will be willing to give up bread. maybe something else, but not bread.
Yes.
But I was listening. I noticed you happened while you had a lot of flare up and the rashes and the skin. You didn't mention about the other brother had kidney and heart, all these other failures of organs, and yours was skin and flare up. And is that
well actually it's something that, because of his history with his kidney, and then I was starting to show symptoms where my organs were failing as well.
okay?
And about 5 years ago, when I had the really massive flare up, what they were doing, my kidneys were starting to fail, but I had to do a kidney biopsy where they stick the needle into your back to get a biopsy from your kidney. And it's almost at the border where it's not problematic, but it is something that we have to continue watching. I have been diagnosed with lupus nephritis, but thank God it's not to a point where I have to worry yet about kidney like dialysis or kidney failure. But the only thing that has affected other organs that is permanent, my lungs have been permanently scarred, where I have restrictive lung disease is what they call it. So rather than my lungs being able to expand 100%, they were down to 40%. So I have shortness of breath constantly. I keep an inhaler with me. I used to run track in high school. I probably can't even run up the stairs now without, you know, having to stop to catch my breath. And these are things that is permanent. It's not something what they had, it was actually very scary. About 3 years ago, I went to the pulmonary doctor and he's telling me, you know, your options are you can have a surgery to scrape the scarring off of your lungs. It's very invasive and it's not a guarantee of you being able to fully, you know, return to your normal activities, or we could put you on a donor list for a lung transplant, which I didn't request either. I said, you know what, I'm just going to accept this is where God has me at this time and see where it goes. And since then, I do every year I go in and get, they call it a pulmonary function test, where I sit in a boxed in little cubicle and they check how well my lungs are going. I do it, the inhaler. I have to do it twice a day. And as needed, like if I'm go for a walk or something. But I would like, my goal is to continue walking and to be able to return to doing activities with my kids, like going on hikes, running around the block with the kids, or riding my bike. So I do work out. I try to be as active as I physically am allowed or capable of. But yes, I do have other organ involvement. That is, one, the kidneys are being monitored, and the lungs are, hopefully I would be able to expand my lung capability.
Well, we wish you all the best. I know that with taking constant medication and the steroids, that it's hard for the other lungs, the other organs to stay strong, because then all of those chemicals are eating them out as well. So yes. I was just asking just to make it clear to viewers how your symptoms are totally different and how some of them are the same. That yes. was the main purpose, you know, because a lot of times you look good and everybody think you feel good. So it's good for the clarity, just for the sake of clarity.
Absolutely. And while my symptoms can be my lungs and minimal kidney function, the person with lupus discoid, like, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the singer Seal. He has discoid lupus, where it's affected his skin and he's completely scarred. There's others who are, they've completely lost their kidney. They have kidney failure, and they have to be on dialysis. But if you lined us up in a room, you wouldn't even be able to know who has what, if they have anything, because lupus, it affects people. Each person will be affected differently by lupus, which is hard for doctors to, it's not a blanket, illness where a doctor can say, oh, you have lupus, I'm going to treat you with XYZ, because it affects everyone differently. It's very specific to each person how you will be treated.
Well, Rosadela, tell us where we can find and learn more about you and your organization, your website and Facebook.
Absolutely. I am on social media, almost all social media, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn under She's Got Lupus, or my first name and last name, Rosadela Durruthy. My website is she'sgotlupus.com, and I have my podcast, Through the Pain. I am going to continue. I have my blog on She's Got Lupus as well, and have a calendar with upcoming events. I believe Emmitt mentioned his gala in October here in San Diego. I am also in San Diego, so I will definitely be at his gala supporting him, and just keeping an eye out for the upcoming lupus awareness events coming on around town.
All right. Well, thank you so much for just taking the time out to even join us to share your pain and how you've turned that into a purpose now. We really appreciate you. Thank you. God bless you. We love you. We hope that, to just speak with you once a year, right? Because
yes,
we're dealing with this every day.
Every day, yeah.
We just want to say thank you. As we wrap up, everyone, it's 7:06. And we're going to just wrap up. Sybil, do you have any last comment?
No, my question would be just like I asked Emmitt earlier, but she covered that. So that's really good. So thank you very much for sharing with us, Rosadela.
Okay. Dr. Arlene?
I would like to applaud both presenters for their courage, for their strength, for their determination, and just giving a shout out to our Heavenly Father for not wasting people's pain. As was said, it turns pain to passion, and the power and the persistence, and put them on a platform, not just for themselves, but to benefit their world. And it's just awesome how God works out situations in our lives. So sometimes I'm saying, why should I complain? My God, look at what they have going on. And even through their storms, they see a bright ray of hope. So we ought to be people of hope, and, continue to do the best that we can to be a blessing to our world.
Yes. Louis?
Yeah, I just want to thank Rosa and, of course, Brother Anderson for their testimony and their journey that they've been going through, and turning around to help people and to speak about it. As you said, the more you speak about it, the more you release it out back into the environment, because that's what you need to do sometime. Release these pains back where it came from and send it back to the devil.
In the name of Jesus.
And so as we wrap up this evening, I want to thank you guys. And as you said, nobody will look on you and know that you have any form of lupus disease. And so we wish you all the best and hope that your pain will recede. You and your family will continue to be blessed and work with it. I hope that there is some, and I'm going to research that there must be some form of herb or something coming from the island that we can use in this thing, Donna, to help some of our people. But thank God for you, and all the best.
Well, one thing I remember Rosadela saying, stress, when she noticed that, and I think Emmitt said that also, she noticed when we lessen the stress, the flare-ups, right? So a lot, and then the food. So again, those things have a role to play. But I think once you're diagnosed and you're in the midst of it, you know, of course, the medical, pharmaceutical way, but definitely also, I think I heard them say, watching your stress level and also watching the food. She talked about the red meat. She noticed. So everybody would have to then, you know, but we know that's probably a given for any and every ailment out there. So with that, we just want, again, want to say blessings to everyone, big ups to everyone. God bless.
God bless you. Thank you so much.
And we continue to pray and bless these individuals that come on and share with us weekly, share their pain publicly. We thank you. And until next time, everyone, we'll see you next time on Caribbean Diaspora Vibes.
Yes, yes, and continue to keep it locked right here on Caribbean Rhythms, crrfm.com. We have plenty of music for the rest of the night for you. So enjoy. Thank you.